What is up, all of you awesome and amazing people on YouTube? The old coot here, coming at you with another exciting video with my handy dandy magnet, because nothing beats the sound of magnet on metal, knowing that I've got some form of steel in here, not just aluminum or some kind of poured or whatever steel combo, whatever. There's some metal in here, so that's good. So this is sticking, the tray, the grill is sticking, also the basket, the magnet sticks, so that's good news. Anyways, with that being said, let me go ahead and close all this so I can show you what's going on here. Yes, this is the Hamilton Beach Easy Reach Toaster Oven / air fryer. Wow, what a mouthful. Anyways, that's what she said. So what's going on is my Oster, I had an Oster for centuries, pretty much, not just kidding, but I had this thing for at least like 8 years. It works great. The only problem is roommate came in and stripped off all the numbers, so I can't see what anything is anymore. Plus, I think it was just time to move move up one level and get something that actually does some air frying as well. So let me go ahead, and I've shown you the inside, that the inside there are, you know, a good majority of metal pieces. This is the, whatever you call this, the pan on the bottom, that's also metal. The sides here are also metal, which is great, right? The top here, metal, metal, metal. Even the knobs, look at that, metal, metal. Love it. Even the handle, look at the handle, metal, right? So you know you're getting a good quality piece. I think there is some polymer here, some kind of plastic polymer or whatever as a buffer so that you don't burn your hand and that the handle doesn't get too hot when you go to grab the handle or whatever. But it's really good. No, it's comforting to know that there I am. See me? Hi. Anyways, it's comforting to know that there's a lot of metal in here, more than, you know, resin or plastic or whatever. So it just means quality, I guess, and also better materials that are probably going to be more durable, last a lot longer. At least that's my hope. Anyways, let me go into some quick measurements real quick so you can kind of get an idea what's going on. I know a lot of other people that have reviewed this never really got into this, but the top of this is without the door hinge. The top of the oven is somewhere around 18 inches, right? It's like just shy or just around 18. If you add in that extra like quarter to a half an inch on either side, now you're at like 18.5 inches or so, like give or take, side to side. So if you're trying to squeeze this in somewhere, just know that it's always good to give yourself at least 1 inch, even more, just so that this has room to work and also that airflow can get around. Because remember, this thing's going to get hot. So it's good to have airflow to get around this just to keep things cool. Okay, let's measure the top. We'll do the top now. So I'll do it from this side. So from the bottom, right, this is on the counter, all the way up to the top, you're looking at somewhere in the ballpark of like 9.5 inches. But there's this lid part here, right? So how tall is this? This is, give or take, 9 3/4 inches, bordering on like 10 inches. So you get about an extra, let's say 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch extra with this top part. See what I'm talking about? So you have this height, and then you have this height up here, right? There's a difference of about a 1/2 inch here of distance, so keep that in mind. Okay, the back side of water, let's go ahead and measure this. This is the bump out, right? This is where you can fit, like your 12-inch pizza will fit in there. So this is also important too, is what's the distance here? And then what's the distance with that bump out? That came up in a lot of other people's questions as well. So if I measure from that point, you know, we're ballparking here within like a 1/2 inch. I would say you're somewhere around like 11.5 inches. But then the bump out, right? The bump out comes out another, what is that? Like 3 inches more. So figure you're going to be somewhere in the ballpark of like total depth, somewhere between 14.5 to like 15 inches, just to be safe. So definitely keep that in mind. There's also a stopper back here so that you don't go right up against your wall. There's a little stopper that gives you about like a 1/2 inch of space between your wall and this back piece, because this also gets hot as well. So keep that in mind. Hopefully that answers all of your measurement questions, so to speak. Let's go for the inside. What is the inside diameter? I'm guessing it's going to be 12, right? Because if you're doing if you're doing like a 12-inch pizza, let's see what we get. So wall to wall, right? Wall to wall inside, you're looking at just shy of 12 3/4 inches. Let's say, let's just call it like depending on where I hold this, where it is, that piece or this piece, like I'm looking, see that top right there between the 2 and the 3, I'm looking at like 12 3/4 inches, give or take. And you do remember, you never want to put something in there that's exactly 12 3/4 inches, because you always want to give yourself a little bit of room on either side for the air to move around. That's what helps this thing work more efficiently at heating up your food, also to prevent staining, sticking. You get the idea. Okay, we showed you all that most of this was all metal components. Let's go ahead and take everything out now so you can see what all that stuff kind of looks like. So here is move some stuff out of the way. Here's the basket. This is your air fryer basket, which is pretty nice. It's also got this tray down here, or like it's got the feet down there so that when you rest this on your countertop or whatever, see how much space you have there? And this is give or take like an inch. I'll just ballpark it. It's somewhere around like an inch or so if you're curious about that measurement. Yeah, somewhere around like an inch and an eighth, an inch and a whatever you want to call that. I don't know, whatever it is. But anyways, just so you can kind of tell how big is the basket itself. Side to side, you're at 11.5 inches, give or take, somewhere around there. And then in terms of depth, right? So how deep does it go into the oven? That's going to be somewhere in the ballpark of like 10.25 inches, like somewhere around there. So that's how you know how much real estate you have here to put your Ore-Ida French fries, your, what is that? Gorton's Fisherman Fish Sticks, whatever you want to throw in there, sweet potato fries from Trader Joe's, whatever you want to put in there. That's that part. Okay, here, when you first get your toaster oven, there's a white piece of styrofoam here, white piece of styrofoam here. It's all inside the box. I had to open one side and then flip the whole box upside down to get it all to come out. Because if you try to reach in there and pull it out, you're just going to rip the box. Unless you want to rip the box, that's totally fine. You can do whatever you want to do. One crucial note, here and here, there's a piece of cardboard. There's a piece, like a squarish piece of cardboard. I guess that's protecting this during shipping. So there's a piece of cardboard here and a piece of cardboard there. Make sure you remove those before you use your toaster oven. Also, it's a good idea to wash everything. So wash the basket, wash the grate or the grill, wash the collection tray for all the juices or whatever, grilling tray, whatever you want to call that. Make sure you wash all that before you use it. Just mild soapy water with a soft-sided sponge. There's no reason to be aggressive or abrasive or use any kind of like scouring pad. You don't need any of that stuff. Just soft side of a sponge, some warm soapy water. Okay, so inside you're gonna find all this is gonna be wrapped in bubble wrap, but you're gonna get like an owner's manual, right? SureCrisp toaster oven. You kind of get the idea. This thing is like a newspaper. It just keeps opening and expanding and folding and whatever. Take your time with it. I think it also comes in a couple different languages as well too. Yeah. So just take your time with it, read it, go through it. I'll let you do your own homework. Okay. Inside, this is where most of the magic happens, right? I mean, cooking is just where most of the magic happens, but this is where most of the cooking action happens. Okay, remember, you got a little bump out back there, right? So you have your main oven and then you got that little bump out. So this is the way I would grill. Like if I was going to do like a steak, I would put the steak on top so all the juices collect down there. If you really want to go nuts, you can put some vegetables down there so the juices from the steak mix in with the vegetables. You kind of get the idea. Give it like a good spray of olive oil or put some oil in there just to kind of keep everything moist and nice so the cleanup is a little bit easier. You kind of get the idea. But that's basically the concept. Or you could do this where you pull this out. See if I can do this with one hand. You can pull this out and put this on top, right? So now you can actually grill some vegetable or pan fry, whatever the technical terminology is, you can cook whatever you want there. This is pretty, it feels like it's going to be like a non-sticky kind of material regardless. But if you want to line this with tinfoil, be my guest. If you want to put like a drop or two of olive oil in there, just use it straight. That's what I would do. That's how I would do it. And I would use it like that. But you kind of get the idea. But see how much room there is in there? So you can't just put only this in there. You need to have this grill here is basically the foundation for almost everything else that you do. If you are going to air fry, by the way, let me show you this, where now you're going to do some air fryage. What I would do is put your air fryer on top of that whole setup, or you could just put I think there's enough room here. Yeah, you would have to do it this way, because that way basically all the drippings from whatever it is that you're air frying can drip down into there and not affect your bottom, you know, the burners down there and everything else. Okay, so that's basically that. You kind of get the idea. The grill, you do have two positions here, right? So you have a lower position, and then you have a higher position, right? So you have two positions that you can put this thing on. Very important is we're going to get into the knobs and what the functions are and whether the top burners go on or the bottom burners go on. We'll go over that in a second, but let me just take everything out so you can kind of get a sense of what's going on in here. Now on the very, very bottom, you have like your crumb tray, and this whole thing comes out for quick cleaning, whatever. Do you want to line this in aluminum foil? Sure, you could do that too. Whatever floats your boat. I just like to be as tidy as I go. So as I use it, I clean it. Just makes, it's like teeth and tartar, right? The more regular you go in and clean out your tartar, the easier it is to clean out your tartar with your hygienist or your dentist or whatever the case may be. Okay, so now that we got the set, once you get everything in there, you get all your food in there, make sure you close your lid. Then you can start doing the business end of what's going on here, setting your time, setting whether you want the top burners, the bottom burners, or both sets of burners, whether you want it to air fry or not. We're going to get into all that right now. So let's get into it. So right now my oven is unplugged. I'm doing this on purpose just to kind of show you all. Something that came up in a previous video was these two buttons, these two squeezy buttons on the sides here. What are they for? What do they do? How does all that work? So when you go to set the time of whatever it is that you're cooking, right? This only goes to 30 minutes, right? And then if you want to go longer than that, you can either keep resetting it, or you could just keep the oven on and stay on. That can be a hazard, right? So be very, very careful, be very diligent about setting a timer of your own. Either do it on your phone, or if you have one of those countertop timers, you just want to know that your oven is on and that you don't want to walk away from it for an extended period of time. Like you don't want to leave it on and then leave for the day, right? Because obviously you might have like a fire hazard. So be careful. Warning, 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 danger, danger. Make sure you shut this off. Like never leave an oven like this unattended, especially if you're planning on leaving your house. Just shut it off or unplug it or whatever. So the way you turn the oven on to stay on is you squeeze these two buttons on the side, right? See that little side button right there? Trying to get the best angle, right? That little side button. And then this little side button right here, you squeeze these two together and then turn counterclockwise. There's a little bit of resistance and then it'll stop. Let go, and then now it'll stay on. So if we were actually using the oven, right, and the door was closed and I had it plugged in, the light would be on and this would stay on indefinitely. It'll stay on until you turn it off. So keep that in mind. Danger, hazard, warning, you get the idea. So with that being said, when you want to shut it off, you squeeze those two buttons again, squeeze, and then turn clockwise. You'll hear kind of like that motor turning. Hear that? And then you'll get a ding when it's off. Now you know it's off. Okay, now let's go through the temperature settings, the top burner, the bottom burner, all that stuff. So the next button up is bake, broil, toast, or air fry. This is another thing a lot of people got wrong in some other reviews that they did. When you turn this, there's actually a soft click. So it's a click, right? Click. There's a click here to toast, and there's another click to air fry. So it doesn't just spin around freely. There's actually a click in between. It's a soft click. It's kind of like when you turn on your blinkers. If you're driving, if you're in a vehicle, left turn signal, right turn signal, you get the idea. It's like a soft click. So click, click, you get the idea. Okay, bake. Bake means that these two, see how I did this? Where I emptied out the oven so I could show you all the burner? Just saying, that's why you all love me so much on this channel. That's the reason. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button down there below. You get the, and I will put a link to this whole oven down in the description section in case you're curious about buying one, by the way. I could totally do a half-hour presentation on this, but I hope this video doesn't go that long. Anyways, when you go to bake, turn this to bake, what's going to happen is only the bottom two burners, those are your burner. That's your burner. Your bottom two burners, only those are going to go on. When you go to broil, so the next soft click, right? Soft click to broil. Now only the top two burners are going to go on, right? You got one right here and you got one back there. So broil means that only the top two are going to go on. When you go to toast, soft click, toast. When you go to toast, both the bottom and the top burners go on. So keep that in mind. So if you want to cook from the top down and from the bottom up, you go to toast. Okay, what is air fry? When you go one more to air fry, what happens now is, see those vents in there? One of those is sending the air out, and one or two of those is sending the air out, and one or two of those is sending the air back in again, or collecting the air so that it can spin around. And there's actually a fan in there, very quiet. Right? When you plug it in, I'm not going to plug it in now, but when you plug it in and you go to the air fry mode and the toaster's on and the light's on, what'll happen is you'll hear that fan circulating that air in there to get the hot air circulating around to act like an air fryer or like a convection oven, if that makes any sense. Ding, ding, ding. Yes, this thing is pretty much like a convection oven at a fraction of the cost. Anyways, so let's go back to the top section now. So now we're here, right? We're at the temperature. Well, how high or low do you set your temperature to? If you are doing just regular toasting or pizza reheating or that kind of vibe or whatever, what you can do is you can go to the minimum. You'll hear it click there, but you can go to the minimum, which is basically, I think it's anything less than 150 degrees pretty much. Once you turn this knob to around 150, you'll hear a click in there. Hear that click? I hope that's coming in on camera. And that kind of tells you that now the toaster is going to or that this unit is going to actually cook. I think when you're at the minimum, it's kind of like a warming kind of setting, maybe somewhere between 100 and 149 degrees. I'm not exactly sure the exact temperature, but you kind of get the idea. But when you go to 150, you'll hear that click, and then now you're starting to cook. So if your pizza says to cook at 350 degrees for 10 minutes, what you would do is you would go to 350, right? So that's Fahrenheit. These are all in Fahrenheit. Then what you would do is you could either do toast if you want to cook from the top and the bottom, or you could go to air fry if you want the air to circulate and cook your pizza faster, maybe get more of like a crunchier top or crust, more of that molten ooey gooey goodness, chocolate, cheesy, crusty kind of a thing going. You get the idea. But whatever you decide to do, if you're going to do the toast setting, right? Let's say you're on the toast setting. Any one of these temperatures is fine. If you want to air fry, see how it says broil, toast, air fry? You have to go to 450 degrees. So if this knob is at air fry, this one must be at 450. Otherwise, it just won't do it. I think the oven will go on, but I don't think it'll activate the air fryer and all that other stuff in there. So keep that in mind. Anyways, then what you would do is you would set your time. So if you are going to air fry a pizza, let's say, and it says the cook time is 10 minutes, a lot of times you cut that time by maybe 20 or 30%. So you might only need 7 minutes, or you might only need 8 minutes. So what I would do is I would rotate your dial to what you think is somewhere, like if that's 10 and this is off, 5 is in the middle, I would set it somewhere between the 5 and the 10 of, the imaginary 5 there. Let it do its thing, see if you like it. If you need to add another minute, you can always just turn it back and get another minute out of it. But whatever you set this to, keep in mind, if you try to force the knob back to shut it off, guess what happens? Premature wear and tear. You're going to wear out the parts. You're going to wear out the spring mechanism in there quicker. So if you think your pizza's done, but you still have like 2 or 3 minutes left on the timer, you can always just unplug the oven. Just take the plug out of the, that's how, it's so simple. That way, at least you know that no power is going to this and that the heat isn't on. Worst case scenario, you live with a bunch of roommates like I do that are just sometimes, you know, in a hurry, in a rush. They leave the house. You're not really sure what's going to happen. I always tell them, if you need to leave for whatever reason, just unplug the oven. At least I know it's not going to turn on, right? Less fire hazard, less of a danger. You get the idea. But I hope that helps some of you out there. So let's just recap really quick. Let's say we were going to make a ribeye steak in this toaster. Remember, wash everything before you use it, right? Wash your air fry rack, wash your grilling rack, wash your tube, all that stuff. Let's say it was all clean and washed and everything else. I'm going to go ahead and, let's say I wanted to use the middle rack. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. I'm going to put my ribeye steaks would be on here, right? They'd be seasoned, all that good stuff. Maybe on the bottom rack, I might have some tinfoil down there, or I might have some vegetables down there and some olive oil or whatever, some potatoes. Maybe I want to do like pan grilled potatoes in the oven or whatever. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set mine to toast, because I want it to cook from the top and the bottom. What I would do is I would set my temperatures to somewhere around 350 or so, give or take. And then what I would do is I would set my timer to about maybe 15 minutes or so. That would give me a sense of, like, after 10 minutes, I would check it and see if it's ready. If it's ready, great. Unplug the oven. There's no need to force this back. Remember, take out your steak, it's cooked, and you're done. If you need to go longer, just keep adding 5 or 10 minutes at a time and see whatever you need. Okay, second scenario. Let's say you want to toast. You want to toast your toast, right? You have different types of toast: sourdough, whole wheat, you have artisan bread, you have olive bread, whatever, pumpernickel, whatever you want to use. Different toasts will toast at different toastiness. Say that 10 times really fast. So what I would do is I would put my toast on top of the rack like this. So all the crumbs go into here instead of going all the way down here and touching that element, right? Because maybe I don't want them to touch the element. Maybe I just want to go down here. What I would do is turn this to toast and then set my temperature. Remember, to broil or toast, this has to be at 450. And then I would go ahead. Lighter is on the counterclockwise end of the spectrum. Darker toast is on the clockwise end of the spectrum. Test it. You're going to have to test it. 5 minutes, see what happens. 10 minutes, see what happens. Get to a level that you're comfortable with, and then you could always just take a Sharpie and mark it. Put a little dot and say, okay, the blue dot is where my toast is perfect. And that way you know to reset it there every single time, and you kind of get consistency. Let's say I got a frozen lasagna from Costco, whatever, and I want to bake that. So what I would do is I would go to bake, right? Let's go to bake. And then I would set my temperature. Let's say it says to bake it at 350 degrees, right? So 350 degrees on bake for 20 minutes. I would go ahead and rotate this to 20 minutes, let it do its thing, right? And you could either do some Costco and some other frozen lasagna brands. They already come in their own kind of cooking tray or baking tray. Some of them tell you to remove that. So depending on what you're doing, I would, if it comes in its own cooking tray, device, vessel, whatever, I would just put that on top. But if you need to take it out, like you don't want to cook in the provided vessel that it tells you to cook in, what you could always do is switch these, right? So now your lasagna goes in here, and this is just kind of sitting on top. And then you can experiment. Is this a good level of height, or do you need to drop it down to get the bottom more? I tend to find the middle rack is usually one of the better racks because you don't burn the bottom. That's why I like using the middle. But if your recipe calls for something where you need to cook from the bottom up and you need your heat closer to the bottom, experiment with it. See if this is the better position for you. And that's what she said, because sometimes you might need to change your positions, just saying, in the middle of the night. Anyways, you kind of get the idea. Okay, you made that lasagna. Now maybe the instructions tell you to set it to broil for 2 minutes. How do you do that? You may or may not need to move the rack to the highest part or to the higher level. But what you could do is you could go to broil, right? Make sure this broil goes all the way to here. The top knob needs to be set to broil toast, right? There should be a line here kind of dividing the two knobs and between these two as well. But if you do need to broil for 2 minutes to kind of toast that cheese on top or whatever it is, What I would do is I use some hot hands or kitchen towel or something, some oven mittens, just so you don't burn yourself. Make sure, because all this is going to be extremely hot. But you might want to do something like this. Your lasagna is already in there. You've got enough clearance. You should always give yourself about 1 inch of clearance between the height of whatever it is that you're cooking, right, and the burners themselves, right? The two burner rods that are in there. There's a closer look at those, by the way. See that gray or that dark black, that graphite colored rod that's back there? That's the tube. There you go. This is the actual cooking element right there. So if you do need to broil, set your top knob to broil toast, set this to broil, and then you would set your time for 2 minutes. What's 2 minutes on here? We'll do some cutting or dividing the pie, right? So this is 0, this is 10, go half of that would be 5, so 5 would be somewhere around here, and then 2 would be half of that distance, so maybe about right there. So that would be broiling for 2 minutes. So turn your dial to about what you think is about 2 minutes. The light should come on, you get the idea. Anyways, 25 minutes is way too long for one video review. I am the Old Coot. Hit that like button if you appreciate anything that you saw here, if you learned something new. Whenever it's time to clean this, the crumb tray, just take it out, soft side of a sponge, warm soapy water, just wash it, clean it, put it away. There's no need to soak any of this in anything. As long as you take good care of it, it will take good care of you. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button down there below. I will put a link to this beautiful Hamilton Beach Easy Reach toaster / air fry down there below in the description. Make sure to check that out, and I'll catch you all in the next exciting video.